Okay, all right. And with that, we'll start too. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
We have a quorum with Chairman Towns and Ms. Zucker present. Is there a motion to call to order the 306th meeting of the members of the Housing Trust Fund Corporation?
So moved.
And a second. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the 305th meeting held on May 8th, 2014. Questions or comments?
The problem with using the phone and the video.
Wow. Much better.
Okay.
If there are no questions or comments, the minutes are deemed approved. Yeah, that's much better. The second item on the agenda is a resolution approving the annual independent audit. The audit report was circulated in the supplemental board materials, and HTFC has given us a presentation outline. And I will turn it over to Ms. Hunter, who will be introducing our auditors.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. What if we did that?
Should we mute us now?
Thank my staff for their cooperation in this audit.
Should we enjoy?
Particularly Tony Bauer, who worked at the coordinator for this effort. I also would like to extend my thanks to the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery staff who jumped in and had to respond quickly to the need to expand the scope of the audit to include that new program area. So I appreciate their cooperation in this effort. So I'll turn this over to HTFC. I think they distributed some slides to you. If you have those, we'll be walking through those. So Brendan, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. So everyone should have several
Are we okay?
CSD, a copy of the financial statement, our required communication, and our presentation. So if everyone could take the presentation out, maybe also have those financial statements right to the side. What I'll do is walk you through the presentation, and I'll also make some highlights in the financial statement. So as you turn past the cover, when you get past the table of contents, you end up on page 3.
Bear with us 1
Here
second.
is an executive summary. This will be your go-to page. If you don't want to put through all the materials, this kind of summarizes everything.
Brendan, can you just bear with us 1 second? We want to make sure we have the right reports in front of us.
Item number 2, page 23.
Good to go?
Got it. Thank
Okay,
you.
Terrific. So, again, on the presentation here, if you flip to page 3, we have an executive summary here. And this just lays out all the results here in a nutshell. We substantially completed our work on June 24, 2014, although the majority of the work was really done in the month of May and into early June. We have several deliverables for you. The most important would be our auditor's report on the basic financial statements. And we will talk more about that. We also have a yellow book report. You might hear this called several different things. This is your report on internal controls and compliance that is required under government auditing standards. And that's in the back of the financial statement. We're also going to make our required communications. Although we have a separate letter for that, I will be handling most of those communications as part of this presentation. And also we have a management letter. A management letter is really our observations to you. They don't necessarily represent a deficient control or process, but rather observations that we make to you to help you enhance your internal control and processes at the corporation. So that is also included. We did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in financial reporting. And I think that's important to stress that our audit is focused on the financial statements of the corporation and not necessarily all of your compliance aspects that you need to do in administering your program. Our objective was to express an opinion on the accuracy of the numbers that you are reporting as of March 31st. We are reporting one instance of noncompliance during the audit, and we'll talk about that. But this relates to a requirement surrounding the collateralization of your cash deposits, and we do have a response from management that seems to be addressing this matter. We have a couple of uncorrected differences, and we generally do each year. Management has asserted that these uncorrected errors are immaterial to the financial statements, and we concur with that. And finally, the most important thing down here, we have issued an unmodified opinion on the basic financial statements. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that we, your auditors, can provide you, management, and those charged with governance that the statements are free from material error. Okay? Moving on, if you flip to page 4, the next page in the presentation, what I'll do is give you folks a brief walkthrough of the financial statements. Okay? On pages 1 and 2 of the financial statements is our independent auditor's report. Of this whole document, the whole basic financial report that the corporation has, pages 1 and 2 are our piece. This is what we own. The remainder of the document is the responsibility of management of the corporation. This is our second year using the clarified report. So what we've done here is, in accordance with the AICPA standards, is we break out the different sections of the report with headers to help clarify the organization of the report for you. If you flip to the second page of the report, page number 2, you'll see at the top is our opinion. Again, this is an unmodified opinion, the highest level of assurance we can provide you. We also make reference to the required supplementary information. We have two pieces of that. We have management's discussion and analysis on pages 3 to 6. And we also have some required supplementary information in the back, which is relative to our OPEB disclosures. One quick plug here. We have one other matter, and that is the prior year financial statements so that everyone's aware. Effective January 1st, 2014, Balam, Sheedy, and Girani, which is the firm that Ann and I work for, merged with Sachs Macy Fromm. Sachs Macy Fromm is in Clifton, New Jersey. And effective January 1st, 2014, we became Sachs BSD. What that means to the corporation is basically nothing, but there's a different name on the report as compared to last year. And we're simply highlighting that in this other section. Okay, beyond the report, on pages 3 to 6, we have management's discussion and analysis. And I sometimes refer to the MD&A as the cliff notes of the financial statements. The financial statements can be pretty long, and there's quite a bit of disclosures and other things. And if you wanted a quick summary of how the corporation did for the years, the MD&A is a good place to start. What I'll note in terms of the MD&A, there are no specific changes in terms of the content and the way we've laid out the information here. Of course, the numbers do change from year to year, but as you read through the MD&A, you'll notice that it's fairly consistent with prior periods. Okay. Moving on to page 7, 8, and 9. These are the guts of the financial statements. These are our numbers where we're reporting things. And a few things that I'll point out. You'll notice some increases in assets and liabilities and increases in revenues and expenses. A lot of this has to do with the program, the disaster recovery program that we're administering. As a result of that, we do have more assets on hand. We do have more liabilities on hand. And as you'll see on page 8, revenues increased significantly from the past year. When you look at the corporation's existing programs, everything was relatively consistent with the prior period, with the exception of the disaster recovery, where we received approximately $676 million during the period ending March 31st, 2014. When you get past the financial statements, you get to the notes. The notes to the financial statements are on pages 10 through 9. One of the more important footnotes here is footnote 1. This provides you with an overview of the organization, the programs we're administering, as well as our significant accounting policies. Okay, I'll note that if you're on page 13, you'll notice that we adopted a couple of new accounting standards. We adopted GASB statement number 65, and we also adopted GASB statement number 56. Neither of these accounting standards significantly impacted the financial statements of the corporation. Okay? As you move past the notes to the financial statements, on page 20, you'll see the other piece of required supplementary information. This is some information on our OPEB, our other post-employment benefit plan that we have, which is our post-retirement health. That's on page 20. And beyond that, you get to the other document in this report that SACS BSD owns, and that's our report on internal controls and compliance. That's on pages 21 through 24. A few things to note on this report. It is indeed a report. It's not an opinion. It does not represent an opinion on internal controls and compliance. But this report is the vehicle that we would use to report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control, as well as any non-compliance. And as you turn to page 23 of this report, you'll note that we do have one instance of non-compliance that we reported to you, and that deals with the collateralization of bank deposits. So during the year we had, or as of March 31st, 2014, we had some cash deposits that were not secured by collateral, which meant that we were exposed to deposit risk, and that is not permitted under the existing state laws. So management does have a response, and I think you'll note that with this plan going forward, this risk should be mitigated in the future. So I kind of went through that pretty quickly. Does anyone have any questions on the financial statements?
Question, Mary?
It's just really a clarification. Can you go back to the funding progress for the retiree health plan on page 20?
Sure. You had a question about the post-retirement health plan funding?
Exactly.
Sure. Okay. Good question. So within the state of New York, our other post-employment benefit or retiree health that authorities as well as the state of New York offer to its retirees is unfunded. So the entire obligation is reported as a liability in our financial statements. I know there's debate amongst the public authority community as to whether it is permissible for an authority to establish a irrevocable trust, such as a VIVA trust, to fund these benefits. I have seen some authorities do it. I believe the New York Power Authority did it, but other authorities have taken the position that it's not permissible to do that. What the corporation has done to address this is they have internally reserved some money to pay for this obligation going forward. That money, though, is not reported as a restricted asset because only external restrictions result in a restricted presentation in the financial statements. So internally, we have reserved for this obligation, but in terms of presentation, it is reported as a liability in the statement.
Okay. I may have some follow-up questions for you and Karen after this. Thanks.
Please. And just for everyone's information, if you think of a question later on or tomorrow or next week, my information is in the back of this presentation. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay? So if you have your presentation back in front of you, we're going to flip past the financial statement walkthrough and get to the audit results on page 6 of the presentation. Okay, what I have here in the first bullet point is our areas of focus. We have our cash and investments, obviously a significant part of the corporation, our mortgage loan receivables, AP and accrued expenses. One of the more subjective accounting estimates is our other post-employment benefits. The corporation does engage an actuary to perform that valuation. We have benchmarked some of those assumptions against other reports, including the state of New York's report, and concluded that those assumptions are fairly reasonable. We obviously do a fair amount of testing over revenues and expenses, and as Karen highlighted earlier, we did have an expansion in scope of our audit this year. We spent a significant amount of time auditing disaster recovery program expenses. We went down to Beaver Street, and we had selected repair and reimbursement infrastructure claims, as well as some of the buyout expenses, and we traced those to the underlying documentation. In those instances, we found them to be adequately supported. We also spent a fair amount of time looking at the financial reporting process and journal entries, including an examination of manual journal entries to make sure that those entries are adequately supported, and we did not have any observations there. Okay. Moving on to page 7. What I will do here is kind of breeze through some of these required communications, a bit of a formality, but required under my auditing standards here. Accounting policies and practices, they're all laid out in footnote number 1 to the financial statement. We found the corporation's accounting policies and practices to be consistent with U.S. GAAP. As noted, the corporation adopted a couple of new accounting standards, GASB statements number 65 and 66, and these standards did not significantly impact the financial statements. Next bullet point, we did not identify any unusual transactions, disagreements with management. One of the more significant items we did discuss up front with management was the disaster recovery program, and I've listed that here. And I wouldn't call it an issue per se, but it was a matter. And that gaining an understanding of that program led to the expansion of scope and the increased amount of test work that we did do this past year as compared to prior years. We did not experience any difficulties during the audit. As noted earlier, we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting. And we did not have any material uncorrected audit differences. Okay. If you turn to page 8, I'll continue with these required communications. Here we've laid out a few of your more significant accounting estimates. In each of these instances, what we do is we look at the assumptions that go into these estimates. We examine them for potential management bias. We make sure they're adequately supported and reasonable. In all instances, we found that the corporation's accounting estimates were reasonable. There was no significant communication between management and the corporation, except for the management letter and these required communications that I'm making to you today, all copies of which are available, or you should have now. The last page here, on page 9, we did issue a management letter, which is obviously available for the board, and we can briefly talk about some of these. I broke the management letter out into 2 components. Comments that we identified during the year here, and also our prior year comments. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to review the management letter in advance, but a few observations here, one relative to cash management. And this is more geared towards the disaster recovery programs. Typically, in a reimbursement-based program, we make the expenditure in advance, and the federal government reimburses us. Due to the nature of the disaster recovery program, we have been advanced some funds, and we are holding some funds in advance of the expenditures. The expenditures may not have cleared yet. And what I'm recommending is that management just monitor that and make sure that HUD is aware of their cash management practices to avoid any potential material non-compliance. Okay. Another comment here is the check generation. This more impacted us during the beginning of the disaster recovery program, where certain checks, a significant number of checks were generated, voided, held, and just a comment and observation regarding that, and hopefully, I believe most of that has been cleared up as of now. Finally, I had a couple observations relative to the land acquisitions. This is kind of new for the corporation. As a result of the program, we now find ourselves holding certain pieces of land, some of which we intend to resell, and some of which we intend to to provide to local municipalities for their administration in the future. And what I recommended there is that we just be mindful of the strings that come along with owning property, such as any of the environmental things that we need to do with that, as well as any other commitments that we have in administering that property. In addition, we have a few prior year comments, and what we've reported in the management letter is the status of those. None of those are relatively significant from our perspective, and if as management or the authority has any questions while reviewing those, we would be happy to address them.
I've got none at this time.
Neither do I. Thank you, Brendan, for your presentation.
Yeah, well done.
And thanks, Karen, for your work on this.
Yeah, I would also just, because auditors by their nature, we don't really get to compliment people. I do appreciate the professionalism of Karen and her staff. As always, they were very cooperative with us, and we received all of the documentation timely that allows us to do our job, and also to the Dozer folks as well. I know they're going to be audited about 10 different times by 10 different groups, and they did a good job of helping us get in, get out, resolve our findings, and work with us in terms of our comments. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and we enjoyed working with everyone.
Is there a motion to adopt this resolution to approve the audit report?
Second.
Thank you. The motion is carried.
Thanks again.
Just a quick one, Karen, do you need me to hang on the phone?
No, I don't think you do, and I just wanted to say thank you to you and the team of HTFC. It was a pleasure working with you again this year, and I thought that this was my fourth audit to go through with you, and got smoother each time. This one was definitely very smooth, despite the fact we had to extend this vote, and we appreciate everyone's cooperation getting that done.
And as always, my information is in the back of that presentation. If anyone thinks of questions subsequent to this meeting, I am generally available. So thanks again, and if anyone has questions, I look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thanks again, Brenda.
Okay, bye now, folks. Thank you.
Item number 3 is a resolution approving the annual procurement report,
Brendan Kennedy?
an amendment of the procurement contract guidelines. Ms. Hunter will also be presenting this item.
So again, this year, we brought to you the annual procurement report, and we are making, well, we brought this to you in December for update, at which time we made our policies more consistent with the HFA Sunny Mae procurement policies. But then at this time, we're making one minor change, and that would be to designate Lisa Pagnosi as the procurement officer for HTFC, and this would also align our policy more completely with the 641 licensing policy. Attached to the back of the report, as usual, there are the listing of our procurement contracts and purchase orders over $5,000. The difference this year is we reported on the trust incorporation contract separate from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery contract. So you'll see there's 2 different pages with the report. Do you have any questions about that or about the policy realignment?
None from me.
Neither, Karen.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, which is both to approve the report and to adopt the amended procurement policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. In the next few weeks, too, just for the members' reference, we are expecting another amendment to the procurement policy to account for some of the different procurement regulations that the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery is going to need to have in place. So we'll bring that to you separately, though, but it should be soon, maybe in the July meeting.
Okay.
Item number 4 is a resolution approving the annual property disposal report and property disposal guidelines. Ms. Hunter.
And again, this year, we're bringing this required annual report to you. There are no changes in the report. However, you will note that this year, because of the buyout program, we're including a list of the properties purchased under that program to date. So the list that accompanies the policy pages of the report shows properties purchased as of 3/31/14 under the buyout program. Do you have any questions regarding the policy or the list?
Who holds title to those, Karen?
These are owned by the Housing Trust Fund Corporation at this point.
And we'll-
We don't have a... They're insured, presumably, right?
We are under discussion right now with insurance providers, and we're working out the required insurances, and we're working with HSA's insurance advisor who's been procured under HSA's insurance policy, and we're working with them to ensure that we have sufficient coverage on the program as a whole, that this issue has also raised, and we're working on analysis of our overall needs.
And along with insurance, what about maintenance, Karen?
I would have to defer any specific questions regarding the buyout program to both the staff. So if
Yeah,
if
we'll,
you
we'll,
have specific
yeah.
questions, you certainly have the right people with the program.
We'll do that.
Find out how
Yeah.
long they expect to hold,
Mhm.
whether we can hold them in a subsidiary name.
I will have them report, so we're
Okay.
moving forward with a July 10th meeting, if that's okay. I'll have a representative.
You know what, let's select an alternative date.
Okay.
We're doing our off-site, and it appears that we're going to need to have some conversations, so I would suggest that we find another date so we won't be rushed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we can discuss that after. Would you like to speak with the GOZER staff about this item before July 10th, or before the next date then? I'll arrange for that to happen through maybe a conference call with you.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with the property disposal report as is, though, as submitted? Okay. So assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 5 is a resolution approving the annual report on investments and the investment policy. Ms. Hunter.
Again, this is, here we're bringing to you the annual report on investments required by public authority law. There's no changes to the policy, and a list of the investments as of 3/31/14 is included. Do you have any questions about the policy or the list of investments?
I'm good.
No questions here.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 6 is a resolution approving the mission statement performance report and the amended mission statement. This mission statement performance report is a part of our annual report. We are required to annually review it as well as re-examine our mission statement. So the mission statement performance report is just a highlight. It's compared against criteria that we've established ourselves to see where we stand with our mission statement performance. Some highlights are that we awarded over $136 million from programs listed on page 2 of the report. This does not include the CDBG disaster recovery funds, and one of the main reasons is because the storm recovery, disaster recovery funds and initiatives are not a part of our current mission. So we are expanding that, which is the main focus of why we are amending our mission statement. But some other highlights are that we spread our awards all across the state. CDBG programs alone, thanks to Mr. Nelson's office, are projected to create or preserve over 1,400 jobs, 314 housing units, 38 businesses across the state, and their public infrastructure and facilities projects are projected to serve over 80,000 people. And Mr. D'Amico's office has the public housing modernization and drug elimination projects, which are to assist over 1,300 households across the state. And these are just a snapshot of some of our programs. Our other programs are more difficult to actually quantify in terms of jobs created, businesses supported. But it's been very impressive. So over the last few months, we've been working with the board to revise our mission statement, and so we are setting forth our revised mission statement for you. And it, again, just accounts for our expansion into GOZER, and it also expands our performance criteria accordingly. Do you have any questions on the amended mission statement or on the report, or are there any other amendments you'd like to make to the mission statement? Ms. Ecker, we did add in the renters to the people served as well.
Okay. I'm fine with this.
As a matter.
Just one minor discrepancy on page 1 of the report, which we will correct before submitting it. The amount awarded is $136 million, $73,268 instead of the 135 plus million indicated there. So assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution with the corrections to the report, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 7 is a resolution approving the annual report on operations and accomplishments. This is also one of our annual reports. The data largely overlaps with the mission statement performance, but it is a little bit more broad, and it also includes the storm recovery accomplishments. So additionally, some things we'd love to highlight are that our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program is now the second largest in the country, with almost 46,000 housing choice vouchers, providing over $388,000 in tenant-based rental assistance, something that our Section 8 crew is very proud of. Also, HTFC continued to have the largest Section 8 project-based contract administration program portfolio in the country, which is, we've had that status for a few years now. We're also very proud of that. We cover almost 100,000 units under that contract, under that portfolio. And then something that our Office of Fair Housing has informed us of, which is also a great source of pride, is that we have exceeded the governor's mandate of 20% of MWBE participation. DHCR and HTFC together have achieved a total of 30.91% participation, with 40.5% participation in procurement and almost 30% in construction. So, and then lastly, we've again played a large role in storm recovery. Gozer has given us their entire report. I know they were here last month to present on it more in depth, but that report is next to the core body of our report, and it will be incorporated into HTFC's accomplishments report. Are there any questions on this report?
Question. We talk about storm recovery. It focuses pretty heavily and pretty exclusively on Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. As I exit the agencies, I want to make sure we reflect upon the hard work of the staff that's done storm recovery statewide for the other disasters. I don't know if there's a way to incorporate that here or somewhere, but you've taken on a much broader role as recovery agency through many facets, including OCR's work on Mohawk Valley, Niagara County, and the most recent flooding in Penn Yan and Yates County. So I want to make sure that all flows through the trust fund, and it's all very important work. So.
Absolutely. Do you actually know, were those statistics a part of like the public infrastructures stats that you guys provided previously to me?
No.
Okay, so they're completely separately.
Completely separate.
Okay.
It's a state funding source provided through state appropriation, and for one program it was over $30 million.
Okay.
And the other one is underway right now, and we anticipate it will be a multi-million-dollar program as well.
And it flows through the trust fund?
Right.
So I see maybe two options. One option is to amend it before we adopt it, or the other option is to supplement what's adopted today. Which would the board prefer?
I think we should probably amend it.
Okay, absolutely. So we'll amend it, and I apologize to the board, then it will have to be approved by the 30th, so we'll get on that right away, and then we'll maybe circulate it for approval after the meeting.
Let me just ask the finance folks up in Albany to verify that I'm right. It is trust fund, right, Karen, for the storm recovery?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are going to table this item and come back to it by written approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry for not catching that.
No, absolutely, not a problem. We're also going to skip number 8 and move that to the end of the agenda. Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing contracts for housing and technical services. Mr. Devanis will be presenting this item.
Good morning, everyone. The Housing Custom Corporation issued a request for proposal for housing technical consulting services January 13th of this year. This RFP is to replace the current RFP that has a 5-year term that is expired. The RFP allows elected consultants to enter into an initial 1-year agreement with HTFC and four annual renewals for a total of 5 years on the contract. The total of 62 proposals were received on February 7th. These proposals were evaluated by 25 staff members in the Office of Asset Management, Finance and Development, OCR, emergency services under the previous RFP term was heavily weighted in the environmental review's low-star home program award. Additionally, we were fortunate that the disaster relief programs were able to take advantage of these services. Engineering and architectural consultants may be called upon to assist staff to evaluate proposed construction costs, investigate site and building conditions of undeveloped properties, investigate the condition of existing housing complexes, evaluate the need for complex construction systems, and evaluate problematic conditions discovered for construction. This request includes a total budget of $550,000 for these services for the fiscal year. This equals what we assigned to last year under the previous RFP. The budget was requested based on previous worst-case scenarios for standard services to ensure adequate coverage in the event of any unanticipated special items assigned. Look, back up on the budget. We're billing today on last year's contract under the previous RFP for standard services and those of those facilities disaster relief services. The billing is approximately up to $212,000 for less than fiscal year. Disaster relief related services, which are billed separately, is approaching $590,000. It is therefore recommended that the HTFC board consider this action and authorize entering into contract with the current related services for an aggregate amount of $535,000 for the fiscal year. I will be glad to answer any questions you have regarding this action. Thank you.
I do. Mike, I can't see in, I'm sure I'm just missing it. I see that the last RFP was 5 years. What are you proposing this panel be in place for? I don't know why I'm just not seeing it.
The RFP is modeled after the previous RFP, which is a 5-year term of 1-year contract. And that's where the RFP is modeled. So we will establish a list of consultants that we will reach out to annually to see if they want to go on the contract. And that's 5 years. Does that answer the question?
It does. So you wouldn't anticipate doing another procurement for 5 years?
I don't know if we were able to do that. So it's been done as a 1-year procurement.
Okay, so I'm confused then. I must just not be understanding. You do an RFP for every year, but it's a 1-year procurement?
So the RFP establishes that we can go under contract with 5 different years for that 5-year period. So the RFP established a list of consultants that we will want to contract with this year. Next year, we have to still go to the same list of consultants. And so on.
Okay, so it's 1-year RFP, but the panel's established for 5 years.
This mirrors how we did the other technical assistance contract.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I just didn't understand that. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, any questions? Okay. Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 10 is a resolution approving the expansion of the authority of the Director of Storm Recovery as an agent with signature authority for the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Programs. Mr. Colon.
Good morning, everyone. Members of the board, before you today you have a resolution to extend the authority of James Rubin within the confines of the CDBG-DR program to act as an agent of the corporation for purposes of entering into disaster recovery contracts. As you know, Mr. Rubin is one of 2 co-directors of the CDBG-DR program, along with Seth Diamond. The board previously designated each of them as an agent of the corporation for purposes of entering into CDBG-DR contracts. Because of the nature of the program and how it was established, Mr. Diamond was originally the sole director of the program, and he was given program-wide authority to enter into those contracts. Mr. Rubin came on board afterwards, and his authority was limited to the specific program that he directly supervised. They've now come back and asked us to provide Mr. Rubin with the same authority as Mr. Diamond as a convenience to them. The same restrictions and safeguards that currently apply to all DR programs and contracts will apply to any new contracts that Mr. Rubin would execute under this authority. And so, unless you have further questions.
There's one small modification we wanted to make to the resolve section. In paragraph 1, they need approval as to form and as to fiscal sufficiency. The part as to form identifies in the current resolution a specific title of their council, which I think no longer exists. So we'll just maybe modify that to just council in the Office of Storm Recovery. So they can use, their deputy council or their general council, whatever title they want to sign off as to form. And that's just the contract form itself. So assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution with the just minor modification, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 11 is a resolution approving the secret documentation and classification of the environmental impact of 260 West 103rd Street Apartments and Locust Manor Family 2. Ms. Spitzberg.
Good morning, everyone. This morning I have two projects for which I am recommending they be classified as unlisted actions and that negative declarations be made. The first project is 260 West 153rd Apartment, which is the new construction of 51 residential units and a community facility at 260 West 153rd Street in New York County. The second project is Locust Manor Family 2. It is new construction of 54 residential units at 172nd Street in Queens County. As I said, I recommend a negative declaration be made for these projects, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions on these projects?
For me.
No.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 12 is a resolution authorizing awards under the Rural and Urban Community Investment Fund Program for Cloisters at the Meadows, New York Rural Preservation, and Wyandanch Rising. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good morning, Mr. Sucker. The resolution before you authorizes 3 community investment awards. First is for Wyandanch Rising, a mixed-income, mixed-use, multi-phase transit-oriented development project in Nassau County, directly adjacent to Long Island Railroad.
Suffolk County. Suffolk County.
Project. It seeks to revitalize and redevelop the village of Wyandanch. CIF award for subsidized development. 18,000 square feet of ground floor retail, with the goal of easing the initial lease up of the space. Second authorization is for the New York Rural Preservation Project, or lovingly known as R2D2. The project involves the rehab and preservation of 218 units on 7 sites for local seniors and families. We go to Clinton, Delaware, Washington, Sarasota County. The CIF award provides critical gap financing as part of an innovative 4% tax credit, tax-exempt bond transaction that aggregates multiple projects to create economies of scale needed to move the field forward. The final authorization is for the Cloisters at the Meadows, substantial rehab and preservation of 112 units of rural housing for seniors in the village of Akron and Erie County. The project was awarded 9% tax credit split, as well as $500,000 in community investment funds as part of HDR's recently completed certified funding round. At the time of the award, however, HDR did not fully fund the request from the applicant due to concerns about the acquisition price of the project. Subsequent to the original award, the project sponsor was able to address the concerns, and staff now believes the acquisition price is consistent with all agency policy. As such, resolution authorizes $250,000 increase in CIF. Each of these 3 applications have undergone threshold eligibility, underwriting, design, and bond review, and each satisfies the requirements for award articulated by the agency. With these 3 awards, HTFC will have right nearly $1 million in CIF awards, almost fully committing the fiscal year 13 awards to the appropriation. A new NOFA for the fiscal year 14-15 appropriation will be posted to the agency's website this week, and will also be published
looks like what's in the book is 4 projects, but one was held back because it's not
Yeah.
ready yet.
So the modern is
Okay.
tabled,
Perfect.
so the
Okay.
extent,
That took my question away.
Yeah. The proposed resolution actually lists the modern, but we're going to strike that from the resolution we are moving on today.
Perfect.
Assuming the same person second.
Just one other
Oh, of
question.
course, absolutely.
We did not recommend the wedge point.
The West Point project, is ineligible for funding. It was, the application for CIF funds was submitted in the open window RFP. But the entire project relied on 9% credit, and the project was not awarded through the unified funding process.
Got it.
As such, the CIF award would be a very small piece of the pie, for the 9% award. So at this time, that doesn't satisfy the eligibility that we established.
Sure.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, and again, this resolution will strike the modern from it, from section 1, please say aye.
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 Thank you, the motion is carried. Item number 13 is a resolution authorizing an award under the Preservation Initiative Program for St. Joseph's Preservation. Mr. Garwood.
I don't see him there.
I saw him
I know. Is Sean, is Brett there?
You know, we can,
We'll come back to it.
let's move it. Item number 14 is a resolution authorizing awards under the Public Housing Modernization Program. Mr. D'Amico is here to present this item.
Morning, everyone. We distributed an appropriation of $6 million to this time there's a field of 5 developments out of 11 state-aided housing authorities, no rent jobs. This is our oldest stock. Let's see, we've got Fulton Housing Authority, the first. There was a question. They need to supplement. They've got approximately $6 million in need for comprehensive rehabilitation of the job. I don't think I have to go through the various points, except that there was question, I know with Bruce Levine, it looks like they're not going to apply for 9%, and they'll probably go with a straight bond financing, and that goes as well as Dave Gallo with North Hempstead.
Okay.
I know that was kind of a
Right,
concern
I think
by
we're in
the-
conversation with both, but certainly on the North Hempstead transaction.
North Hempstead Housing Authority, they have also a $5 million scope of work, interior, exterior, site, mechanical systems, requesting $2 million for that. And the Nyack Housing Authority, we've got 2 jobs there. Waldron Terrace is the one where we've got the major job there is an emergency gas line that was way underestimated. It was an unforeseen situation. So we got an engineer on board. It's about ready to go out to bid, and it's going to be over by a little bit more than $700,000. This is an emergency situation, obviously very dangerous, and we're trying to get that done within by October. We're looking for a completion date for that. In housing authorities, oftentimes, in this case, the senior jobs, the Pew Manor, are usually overlooked. They don't get the rough and tumble work over the years. These things go back to the 50s and 60s. However, the Pew Manor does have we are undergoing window replacement, asbestos work. However, there are parking lots and an internal court, which has been flooding very consistently. I even reached out to some of the Gozer people, and they gave me some heads up, but actually the local town is trying to dredge one of the creeks, so hopefully that'll stop that. But over the years, there's been a lot of water intrusion. It's a pretty depressing place once you get inside. So $180,000 of that will pretty much address the entire courtyard, some accessibility points, as well as concrete aprons, that kind of thing. Utica Housing Authority, it's our newest, or actually our newest job, the Mitchell-Lamas, was built in 1978. They have partnered with NYSERDA, and we are using proposing $600,000 to leverage $96,000 in energy savings work. They are proposing to go into contract with Johnson Controls. A lot of people use them for, they're one of the major companies in New York State used for energy service corporations. And they have a pretty extensive package through their federal jobs, and which is much larger than this one, but they were able to tack that on. So we're getting some economies of scale by using the public housing bond funds specifically for Chancellor Apartments. Lastly, there's Wilma Housing Authority. This is their only job that they have there. They do not have senior jobs. What they've done is they have disabled and senior apartments along the ends of a number of their buildings. The only reason they're designated as handicapped is because they have electric stoves. You can see it's just not been a priority. It is a priority now. So for both the public areas and the community room, as well as 5 of the apartments, which is the sort of the federal minimum, 5% of the dwelling units are going to be rehabbed into handicap accessible units across the $500,000. Anyone have any questions?
That's the Watertown area, Jefferson County.
Yeah, that's outside of Watertown, a tiny place called Carthage, outside of Fort Drum.
Any other questions?
Oh, good job.
Thank you. Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 15 is a resolution authorizing an award for economic development under the Community Development Block Grant Program. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Good morning. The proposal before the board for your consideration is an economic development award under the CDBG program in the amount of $750,000 to the town of Cortlandville in Cortland County, Central New York, for the proposed job creation of 50 full-time jobs and the support of 4P Construction and Fabricating. This is a nearly 20-year-old business that continues to grow and expand and has exceeded their current footprint within their existing facility in Lapeer, New York. They're looking for assistance through the CDBG program to offset the cost of property acquisition, to move to a new 131,000 square foot facility in the town of Cortlandville. This move will accommodate new business the company has been awarded for the third and fourth quarters of 2014 and allow 4P to pursue further growth opportunities. This is obviously a prime example of the type of projects that we seek to fund to help businesses grow and expand within the state of New York over the alternative, which is departure for other places. So this proposed $2.4 million project will create 50 full-time jobs over 2 years, with 68% or 34 of those jobs intended to benefit low and moderate income persons. And again, the funds will be used to offset the cost of property acquisition. The CDBG cost per job is $15,000. I'm happy to take any questions on this recommendation.
Are there any questions? Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried. There are 2 new items of business. They are both in the supplemental materials before you. The first one is a resolution authorizing the repayment of CDBG program funds for economic development to HUD. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. So this one is not my favorite resolution to present to the board, nor is the one that will follow this, but sometimes these things happen. Before the board is a resolution for your review and consideration regarding a program audit, finding, and repayment as requested by HUD. In March 2005, the town of Kendall and Orleans County was awarded funds in the amount of $562,000 to assist in the development and expansion of Eagle Creek Marina. They had proposed to create 38 full-time equivalent jobs, and long and short, they hit some hard times and went into bankruptcy. The project, as per the HUD regulations for the CDBG program, identified this project as a failure to create the proposed low and moderate income jobs, resulting in a non-compliant use of federal funds, which will necessitate the repayment of funds to HUD. This project was on our radar for quite some time, but it was identified by the HUD IG in a national audit of the CDBG program that they undertook several years ago. We worked very closely with our counterparts on the local level in the town of Kendall, as well as with our colleagues at HUD to try and get some consideration for the state of the project, the state of the community's finances, and other things before the final determination was made. However, HUD, despite our repeated requests, has issued a final determination that repayment is required in accordance with the CDBG program regulations. So with that, before the board is a resolution approving the repayment of funds in the amount of $562,000 in non-federal funds to HUD to repay for this project. And attached to the memo included for your review is the correspondence dated March 21, 2014 from HUD to Governor Cuomo outlining the specifics of their review of this project. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
So the town has said,
The town's in
we
a
have
tough
no
spot.
money?
Yeah, this was structured as a loan. They did have very little in the way of repayment before the business hit the skids and went into bankruptcy, so they never were able to retain or recapture their investment through the loan guarantee. They did go through bankruptcy proceedings, but as indicated in the memo, their place in the paradigm was set to second position by the courts, and so they didn't get any repayment through the bankruptcy proceedings. And they're a small town, a very small population in the Finger Lakes region, and don't have $562,000 on the books to pay us back, unfortunately. So this is a tough place to be, but we did work very closely with them. They were very cooperative and helpful to the extent that they could be. It's also a project that dates back to 2005, and there's been a turnover of administration multiple times in the town, so the people who were responsible for this in that time, almost 10 years ago, are not there anymore either. So to the credit of the town supervisor there now for having only started in January of this year, working with us on this, looking down the barrel of a $562,000 repayment. He's been very, very accommodating and helpful.
Thank you. Commissioner, any questions? Okay. Assuming the same first and second is previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 17 is a resolution authorizing the repayment of the home program funds to HUD. Okay.
Where do we get the money to pay this?
I'm going to defer to Karen and Sharon to answer that. It will be HTFC resources, but I can't say specifically.
We're exploring our options, Marion. Admin funds available, but of course those have matching requirements, so we're looking to see if that's a possibility. And if it's not, then ultimately it would be corporate resources. We're also trying to work with OCR as far as possibility of any kind of repayment from the organization, even if it's a small amount, anything that we can get to help offset the balance of the payment.
Okay.
Covered.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Car wash, bake sale, all of that. Okay.
Actually, in light of that, in the resolution, I've referenced that the 562 is coming out of corporate funds, but since that's not necessarily the case, I'm going to strike that from the resolution. So it's just going to say.
I believe that initially it will be corporate funds because we need to make the repayment as soon as the board authorizes this. But we are looking to see how we can make ourselves whole.
Okay.
But as soon as the board takes action, we will be taking steps to send those funds back to HUD using corporate resources.
Okay. So resolution back as
Back
proposed.
Okay.
Assuming the same first and second is previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Actually, we may have approved that twice in that case. But item number 17 is a resolution authorizing the repayment of the home program funds to HUD. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. The final resolution before the board is for repayment for a failed project on the home local program administrator side of the home program. In October 2008, the trust fund approved a home award in the amount of $200,000 to Grow West, Inc. a not-for-profit agency located in the city of Utica. Funding was to support an 18-unit owner-occupied rehab program for properties located within the city of Utica. During the contract period, Grow West expended a little over $71,000 in the total $71,650.16 of home funds on construction progress payments for rehab work completed on 5 units of housing. In the year 2013, the Office of Community Renewal was notified that Grow West had closed as a result of an investigation for alleged improprieties in its administration of a local City of Utica CDBG grant. During the investigation, it appears that Grow West ceased further administration of the home contract and the completion of the 5 units in process, deeming them ineligible for home funding. This is another case where we worked closely with our counterparts on the local level. Fortunately, this organization not only ceased work, but ceased to exist. And there were multiple investigations on the local level, and perhaps even through the Attorney General's office and others. Files were seized and retained, and we had the ability to go through them, as the memo to the board indicates, with our counterparts at the City of Utica Community Development Agency. Unfortunately, the organization did no good work on the part of records retention to be able to justify the expenditure of funds for the 5 projects that they did begin. And in accordance with home regulations and Code of Federal Regulations, funds invested in a project that is terminated before completion must be repaid to HUD. Thankfully, they didn't go to the max with their award. They only expended $71,650.16. But again, seek approval of the board to make repayment so that we can close the books on this one with HUD and move on with this project.
And again, Utica has...
Well, it's not the City of Utica. It was actually the not-for-profit who was awarded the funds. And since they don't exist, there's no other liable party.
And when funds get invested in a project like that, we don't get some sort of a lien position on
Normally
property?
they do, right? So it's a lien position with the end beneficiary. In the case of this project, it would have been the 5 homeowners involved. But again, the organization didn't file the necessary notes and mortgages to secure the investment in those properties, so we're not able to do that. But the homeowner isn't at fault in this case either, right? So it would have been a little bit difficult to go back on that.
Okay.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Is Mr. Garwood back? Maybe in the...
Actually, Brett has been called out to a meeting on a project that's closing the next day.
Okay.
In the next hour.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
Brett asked if I could present it on his behalf.
Sure.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, so the resolution before the members to award Preservation Initiative Program funding to St. Joseph's Preservation, a 66-unit project in Elmira, County. The Preservation Initiative Program is created to address the preservation relocation needs of approximately 50 projects that are currently in DHCR's tax credit portfolio, and also projects that have been financed through the Trust Fund program. In 2010, October 2010, members included $25 million for local housing development program for St. Joe's Preservation is one of the 53 projects that were identified as critical need of the city. This award will leverage approximately $5 million in other funds, including tax bond and 4% tax credit. The award will be made to Concord Realty LLC. Concord is a familiar partner of ours. Over the past 30 years, Concord has been through the development of over 13,000 affordable housing in 6 states. If there are any questions at this time, I'd be happy to take them.
None here.
Assuming the same first and second as previously submitted, all in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, the motion is carried. The next several items are informational items and do not require board action. Mr. DeMarco, the Director of Internal Audit, joins us to present his strategy for HTFC's internal audit coverage. Mr. DeMarco.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. implementing what is called continuous auditing. Continuous auditing utilizes technology and automation to support real-time or near real-time audit assurance by enabling testing of transactions as they occur or are posted into the appropriate systems. This would be done in addition to our traditional audit activities, but it's a means to leverage the limited resources and utilize our existing technologies. Specifically, this would entail reviewing all of the IT systems in the agencies and having audit tests built into the systems as applicable or needed. This will leverage our resources by allowing us to focus our effort on exceptions generated by the tests themselves. This will be a multi-year effort to build out. And our first priority will be on systems with the financial information systems. Specifically regarding to Housing Trust Fund Corporation, in order to begin audit coverage of Housing Trust Fund Corporation, while this continuous audit effort was in planning and development stages, we did commence an audit of the Housing Trust Fund bank account reconciliation process and related controls in early 2013. Unfortunately, this audit had to be suspended in the summer of 2013 for the following reasons. Transition activities in anticipation of the recent retirement of the former HTFC treasurer. Superstorm Sandy resulted in our staff having been involved in a lot of the initial integrity and monitoring issues front. And also, we had to reassign our staff in order to work on a review of Section 8 local administrators that was at the direction of the New York State Office of the Inspector General. Regarding the Office of the Inspector General review, they had directed our office last year to review all state Section 8 local administrators, the objective being to determine if additional funds had been stolen by a former employee over what was originally found on the IG's own investigation. Our review began in the summer of 2013 and entailed utilizing 2 outside CPA firms as well as staff from our office. Authorization for the contracts for the 2 CPA firms did go before the board last summer. That effort is near completion at this time. The results are not ready to be discussed in this forum, however. I can say that financial controls have been strengthened at the Housing Trust Fund Corporation over the past year. We've been taking a look. They're utilizing more bank lockbox services for the various trust fund bank accounts. Greatly reduces the risk of internal theft, as well as provides some process improvement opportunities for the corporation. These efforts are continuing and are being monitored by both myself, staff, and the Internal Control Officer with frequent communication with Ms. Hunter, and we've had a lot of discussions over her plans on what improvements and what changes she wants to make to the corporation in order to further strengthen the controls. Next steps for our office and the HTFC board. I have a draft audit plan which will need to be finalized, and upon such time will be presented to the board for review and approval. I'm expecting to have this plan finalized by the end of July or early August. Going forward, plans will be presented to the board prior to the end of the 6th fiscal year, so we'll be looking at March or April for a regular schedule moving forward. Also, an audit charter. It is a document that we'll be preparing for the board's review and approval. This is a document that details our office's responsibilities and review authority. I'm also in the process of updating one for the agency as well. So at that point, that'll be another item for the board. And then for the future, as our reports are completed, they'll be presented to the board, similar to what is happening with our sister agencies, Housing Finance Agency, etc.
I think what I'd like to ask is that you complete your audit plan as soon as possible and try to present it to the board at its next meeting. I don't know when we're going to have that. Just makes me uncomfortable that this has been sort of languishing for a while. So that would be my request. Otherwise, I have no questions.
The next item on the agenda is the review of prompt payments and the prompt payment policy. Ms. Hunter?
Chairman Towns, Ms. Dufford, this is my last annual report to bring before you today. This is pursuant to Section 2880 of Public Authority Law. We have no changes to our corporation's prompt payment policy, and there's a listing of any late payments that we should do. We have nothing to report as of 3/31/14. Do you have any questions for me regarding this report?
I don't.
The next item is the review of expenditures. The review of secret type 2 actions and concur summaries. Is there a request for a presentation on this item? The next item is a review of expenditures to preserve Lake Country housing. Is there a request for a presentation on this item? The next item is a review of authorized contracts under the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program for housing and business assistance and public infrastructure and facilities. If you'll indulge me, I'll just read through the contracts to get them in the record. The contracts include a subrecipient agreement with the town of Southampton, amendments to subrecipient agreements with municipalities, including the village of Amityville, Babylon, Bayville, Freeport, the village of Island Park, Lindenhurst, the town of North Hempstead, and then again the town of Southampton. Agreements with Hunt, Gillett and Associates, NWI Investigations, PricewaterhouseCoopers, a memorandum of understanding with the New York State Department of State, an amendment to the statement of work with Agate Software, the fourth amendment to the subrecipient agreement with DASNY, with Dormitory Authority of State of New York, a subrecipient agreement with the Nelson A. Rockefeller Institute of Government, and also amendments to agreements with AKRF Incorporated, Ecology and Environment Incorporated, H&R Advisors, Jacobs Civil Consultants, Parsons Transportation Group of New York, Perkins Eastman Architects, Tetra Tech, and Innovative Emergency Management. Lastly, an amendment to an agreement with URS Corporation, and storm recovery staff wanted me to note that there's only one, despite the fact that there are two amendments in your materials, there's only one substantive amendment. The first one was just to incorporate the required CDBG language into a new contract of theirs. And then lastly, they'd like to strike the contract in the memo identified with the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. The last informational item we have is the review of status, of the status of development of multifamily projects. Mr. Fitzgerald, would you like to present on this item?
I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. The report is the second quarterly report produced by the Office of Finance and Development. We send you every 3 months for your consideration, and I think the way it's approached is if members have questions about a particular project, then in the report, we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Hey, Sean, sorry to put you on the spot. Do you have an update on Machinecock?
I'm sorry, Mayor, say that again.
Do you have an update on Machinecock?
This is a project that has applied for funding from the agency in the 1990s. It was not awarded funding, subsequently, March 78, to the state. There was a settlement. As part of that settlement, the state agreed to fund the project a certain dollar amount when they presented a document necessary for us to complete. This project has not thrown through getting started to progress. The not-for-profit is working with a developer right now to put together a package of material for us to review. We understand that there's a lot of activity, and we could conceivably see submission for the project in the next few months. We've heard that before. But until, they, the organization, Paul
Thanks.
The only remaining item is a resolution regarding board self-evaluations. We're going to break into executive session, but as this is our last item, after this item, it's just going to be an adjournment. So for the rest of you, please, there's no need for you to
Just
stay.
before we do that, I'd be remiss, Matthew Nelson's last meeting today, he's been the only president of OCR that I've known, because Joe Rubito was over at OGS by the time I got here. But Matthew, we thank you for your service to the agencies overall, but in particular to the Housing Trust Fund. Time and time, again, you were thrown blank pieces of paper and had to create programs out of thin air. And with your leadership, your units were able to hit the mark each and every time. You've been an ultimate professional, a person who's calm even in the storm, literally and figuratively. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, and we wish you well on your next endeavor. And also, it's not 11 o'clock, so, still time for a reprieve if you felt so inclined. But just on behalf of all of us, just want to thank you. You've been tremendous, and, we'll see you down the road.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If I can just say thank you to all of you and the folks up in Albany who are joining us via video. It really has been an intense couple of years with everything. We had all those blank pieces of paper thrown at me, but then the run-of-the-mill stuff too, which was just a lot of fun to work on and to administer. I had a great team to work with. There was a lot of clay there to mold into something great, and I hope I leave behind a team that's stronger and a little bit leaner, but in many ways better than when we got started together. And it's been a true pleasure and honor to work under your leadership and with my colleagues at the presidential level, Marion and Sharon and Kevin and others. It's been a real pleasure for me. I've learned a tremendous amount, not only programmatically but professionally from everybody. And so I'm really going to miss this place, but it's something that is going to help me a lot as I move forward, and our paths will definitely cross. And I look forward to those crossings. So
Great.
Thank you to all of you.
Great. So, thank you, guys.
Thanks.
You're not just checking out right after this. Thank you.
Tomorrow's my last day in the office, but I'm on.
You're going
But
to come
you'll
to the
be-
off-site for a little bit?
Yeah.
You're going to come to the off-site for a little bit?
I'm like blown away. I don't even know what to say. I'm like, no one gave me a head. You didn't give me a
Really?
heads up.
No, I guess
I don't even know what to say. My jaw's still on the floor.
I didn't even look at
What?
you.
How come? I thought that there was like peace in Northern Ireland.
Sorry, I didn't
I
know.
thought like everybody like
cannot
loves
believe
Jerry
it.
Adams
Because
and
I've been a
Clinton.
couple weeks now leading up to this. It's gone by really
So
fast.
weird.
This is so sad for me.
You!
Oh, this has gotten personal. I'm sad.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, we